My next guest has faced these issues, these questions before. Maryclaire Akers is a circuit judge in Kanawha County, West Virginia. Rules of judicial conduct do not allow judges to comment on specific cases, but the judge has agreed to talk to us about general court procedures. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it, Judge Akers. Let's just start with the basics. That's a lot of defendants, like 5 of them. And at count right now, it looks like 7 attorneys. That's not including the prosecutors over on the other side, not including all the bailiffs and the court staff and the security and the judge. And we don't have the jury in there. What is general court procedure when you're just loaded for bear with defendants?
Well, I would say this. First of all, thank you, Ashleigh, for having me on. I really appreciate it. As far as courtroom procedure in a situation where there are many parties and many different people there at the tables, it is really up to the courts to maintain safety at all times. That will be probably the biggest focus of whatever trial would occur anywhere. Again, I can't talk about anything specific, and I won't talk about anything specific here as far as what you're talking about tonight. But what I can tell you is, generally, if a court has a case with a large amount of parties, the first thing the court is going to be doing is looking at safety to make sure you can provide a safe environment for the jurors, for the public, for anybody that would be in there, the parties, the litigants, everybody. And the second thing that the court is going to be doing is looking around at alternate. If there is such a large amount of parties in a case, the court is going to be looking around for maybe alternate spaces to have a trial that would contain a large amount of people.
That's the issue I kept sort of going over in my head, because I covered a case once that was in a convention center because there was just so many people that were involved. And I remember thinking, there's nothing special about an actual courthouse. It's not legal tender. You know, it is possible to physically find another location and hold, judicial procedure, correct?
It absolutely is, and the courthouse is wherever we say it is, if in a situation like that. And I'm sure that they would be looking at alternate places. Maybe schools would be an example of somewhere that they may look, if that's something that is permissible for the court to provide a safe environment. Again, that is going to be the paramount thing that the court is looking at in any situation, not this specific or any other specific situation, but that is what the court is going to be doing, trying to find any kind of alternate space if the court is faced with a trial of any sort, criminal or civil, which would include a whole lot of parties and a whole lot of interested people.
Boy, I hope if they choose a school gymnasium, that they do it in the summer when clearly there'll be no kids anywhere around to see this horrible parade of ugly that's going to go through there. The evidence is just despicable. So I know, again, you can't comment on this case, but I am curious about small town justice, because in an area like this that is so close-knit, you could have a lot of friends of these 5, and you could have a lot of enemies of these 5. We've heard all sorts of reporting on Grandma Tiffany having made plenty of enemies around town. So what is the court to do to ensure an unbiased jury pool?
Well, again, I can't ever comment on any specific case or any specific matter, but what I can tell you is that the role of the court is to provide a fair trial for all parties, and the court is going to undertake to do that in all cases, every big and small, through whatever means are necessary. So that's the court's job. That's what the court will be doing in all trials, not specific to anything here, but that is the role of the court. That is for the court to determine, and that's something the court has to figure out.
Yeah, I sense that we are going to hear multiple motions for, change of venue. Whether it's from the prosecutors or defense, I'm not sure, but it is such a fascinating case. And Judge Maryclaire Akers, I can't thank you enough for helping us to muddle through some of these procedures. And again, I know you can't be specific, but you've been very helpful. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.